the Golden Jubilee of Auroville was celebrated from the 28th of February last year to the 28th of February this year. So before that, in the working committee, we sat with them. In the governing board, we worked out a program for the Golden Jubilee celebrations, which is this journey that you talk about. So I presided over that as chairman of the governing board. So the first thing that we did was, I thought that let us invite the Prime Minister to come to Auroville for the opening. That was a very important matter. And I don't think, frankly, the Prime Minister would have come had I not particularly invited him and persuaded him to come. So the Prime Minister came, and that was the beginning of the journey of the Golden Jubilee program. Then after that, we thought that we should have programs in Delhi. There was a program in Delhi also, over which I presided. Then we thought Baroda, because Baroda, as you know, was where Sri Aurobindo lived for 14 years. And we had procured during the centenary of Sri Aurobindo's birth in 1972, we had acquired that building, which is the Sri Aurobindo Nivas in Baroda. So we had a very good festival in Baroda, a 5-day festival in Baroda. We all went there, Aurovillians went there. There was a proper program, including 2 speeches by me. I did the opening speech in all these programs. You asked what my role is. My role is not only to plan it, but also to actually do the opening ceremonies. So I opened that, and we had a very good program in Baroda. And then we thought Kolkata, because that is the other place where Sri Aurobindo is so closely associated. He was born here. We were able to acquire the house in which he was born, which is the Sri Aurobindo Bhavan in Calcutta. So between the Aurobindo Nivas in Baroda and the Aurobindo Bhavan in Calcutta, these are 2 major centers where we had festivals. And now we are having, as you know, the same festival, same sort of festival in Kolkata, where we started off with the opening speech by me and then a lot of other organizations. So my role has been overall guidance of the program and actual inaugurations of various festivals.
And so what has been your motivation to help with this festival and with Auroville?
Well, I've been involved in Auroville for many, many years. In fact, even before Auroville came into being, I was involved with the Aurobindo movement, as it were. I did my PhD on Sri Aurobindo in 1961. That was several years before Auroville came into being. I was a witness to the way Auroville was set up, how the mother was starting to do it and all. Then there was a long story, there was a lot of conflict and all, and it was I who suggested in Parliament that the government must intervene, because what had happened was a conflict had arisen between the Aurobindo Society, who had set up the Auroville, and the Aurovillians. Aurobindo Society felt, we've set it up, we should control it. Aurovillians felt, we've come all the way, left everything, we should control it. There was a lot of conflict. So I said, unless the government intervenes, it is not going to be sorted out. So as a result of that, the government first of all came out with an emergency provisions for 3-4 years, and then they went on to the Auroville Foundation Act in 1989. And in 1991, the first board was constituted with me as chairman. So more or less from 91 till today, except for 8 years, I have been chairman of the board. So I have been very closely involved. That is my motivation. You ask, what is my motivation? Because I have been involved in this whole project. It has grown in front of my eyes.
Since there's so much energy and help and wisdom being given to Auroville, we really do appreciate it.
Well, I try to do my best because, you know, it's a very unique project and a very exciting project, but it has its difficulties. As I've been pointing out, it's not all smooth sailing. There were lots of conflicts. First of all, there were conflicts between those two. Then, when the foundation came into effect, to begin with, there was a lot of resentment in the community. Why has the government come in? Why are they doing this? Now they realize that without the foundation, Auroville would just disappear. So what is Auroville? 3,000 people in a country of 125 million people. I don't know how many, 12 million people. So, you know, unless it is structured, unless it is governed by a board, which gives it autonomy, but nonetheless supports it. So that is, as I see, the role of the foundation. So then there are conflicts within Auroville. You'll be surprised if I tell you, when I first became chairman of the board, 91, the Matri Mandir was incomplete. And Roger, the great architect, and Pierrot, who was the interior, they were not on talking terms with each other. So the project had come to a standstill. So I had to get them together on the table. I got them to talk. We finished the inner chamber first. Then in the second term, we finished the Matri Mandir. Gradually, my role has been to push the development of Auroville and to try and sort out internal problems.
Great job you've been doing so far. I know it's not an easy one.
No, it's not an easy job.
So back to the Journey of Auroville Festival. How did you conceptualize this idea? What was the inspiration for you?
Well, we all sat together. It wasn't only my idea. It was a collective wisdom. But the things were obvious. First of all, we wanted an exhibition so that we can show what Auroville does, whether it is actual physical objects or whether it is a series of you know, hangings where we can put all the programs. First of all, exhibition. Secondly, meetings, public meetings where we talk about Auroville. Thirdly, interactive sessions between Aurovillians and other people. The point is that we wanted to showcase Auroville. The whole idea of the festival was that so far Auroville 50 years has more or less remained confined within Auroville, within Pondicherry. What we wanted to do was, we wanted to take this out, take the opportunity of the Golden Jubilee to showcase Auroville in these big cities. So we did it in Baroda, we did it in Kolkata, we did it in Delhi, and now there's one more going to be done in Tamil Nadu. So by the 28th of February this year, in a way we should have wound up the Golden Jubilee program. We thought, let us take advantage of the Golden Jubilee and let people in the rest of India know what Auroville is doing.
And how well do you think this has been received?
Well, from the feedback that I get, it's been very well received. Our one in Delhi was not publicized enough, you know, we thought more people would come. But Baroda and Kolkata has been very well received because they had some background also of Sri Aurobindo's theme. I think it was difficult to quantify, you know, what the effect has been, because these are intangibles. Have we inspired anybody? Even if one person gets inspired, they can do wonders. So there's no way to actually quantify abstract impacts. But I think we can say with some confidence that yes, it has had a good impact.
And what has been a highlight for you so far in all these festivities?
Seas. That I had not seen before. And I think that was beautifully, beautifully done, because apparently in the actual dance, about 100 people are involved. And here, with just two very good dancers and the background, they were able to present it. I think that was something really very, very useful.
So you mentioned before that this journey of Auroville is Auroville going outside. What do you think the repercussions have been internally within Auroville of this journey?
I don't know. They've been involved, the Aurovillians have been involved in the journey. And we got a special grant for the Golden Jubilee. Quite a substantial grant from the Government of India. So as you know, they have published a booklet with all the grants of the Golden Jubilee. So that was a great boost to Auroville. As a result of the Golden Jubilee, Auroville received a great boost, not only psychologically, but financially. We got very generous sums of money. We redid our roads, we did all sorts of projects and all. They brought out a whole pamphlet in which they've detailed the projects. So Auroville has benefited greatly from the Golden Jubilee. And I think I can take some credit, because when I did the Golden Jubilee, and when I wrote to the Prime Minister, and then they realized that it's important, and they gave us a special grant. So I hope the Aurovillians are happy with it. They should be. There may be a little kitch-kitch here as usual, you know. Aurovillians are also not easy people to get along with, as you perhaps know if you're an Aurovillian.
Yes, yeah.
There's always small rivalries and little things, you know. But generally, I think the community has benefited substantially from the Golden Jubilee and what you call the Journey. Journey actually began 50 years ago, but this Golden Jubilee program particularly is there.
Yes. So this journey in Calcutta is all about turning points. The turning points of Sri Aurobindo.
Yes, it was a turning point of Sri Aurobindo's. You see, there were many turning points in his life. In Baroda also, he left, but mainly it was Calcutta in 1905 to 1910, when he was active in the political sphere. He was a revolutionary, very strong revolutionary, strong nationalist. And that was the important part of his life. And then in Alipur jail, where there's a cell, you've perhaps been there, he had this first great spiritual realization, where he saw the divine. For him it was Krishna everywhere, in the jailer, in the judge, in the jury and everything. And that really transformed him. And although he did carry on after release for a year or two, but there was a decisive change that taken place. And that, I think, converted Aravinda Ghosh into Sri Aurobindo.
Okay, so what has been a turning point in your life?
If you start talking about my life, there are lots of turning points. Right? There's not just one turning point. I've had all sorts of interesting turning points. I was, at the age of 18, I became head of state at the age of 18 of my state. For 18 years I was there. Then I came into Mrs. Gandhi's cabinet, national politics. Then after that I had a lot of other things. I went as ambassador to the United States. Then I came back into Raj Sabha. So many turning points I've had. Auroville itself, the association with Auroville was a turning point. I'd met the mother earlier, long before Auroville had started. So I've had a lot of turning points in my life. Each one of them, by God's grace, positive, I think.
Yesterday you mentioned that Sri Aurobindo had 5 dreams.
Yes.
But not all of them yet have been achieved. In what way do you think Auroville can help with this?
Auroville, one dream, particularly where I pointed out, where he spoke of a sort of global consciousness of people cutting across nationalities, cutting across languages and religion, and all can live together in harmony. So what I pointed out was that Auroville, in a way, is a microcosm of what could be done in the broader sphere. And therefore Auroville proves in a way that it can be done. But whether it will ever be done on a global scale or not, as I pointed out, unfortunately the movement towards globalization has been stymied for the time being at least. And we seem to be going away. But nonetheless, we've got to continue with the concept that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is a family, and that ultimately we have to live in harmony if we are to survive. So I think Auroville is an important marker, shall we say, in this process.
Do you have any doubts that these dreams would be achieved?
Yes, I do.
And
The way things are going, you know, they don't seem. You see, first dream, as you know, was India, unity of India. How do you get the unity of India? There's no way Bangladesh and Pakistan are going to come back to India. So as I pointed out, the only way we could do that was if we moved towards the European Union type of system. So in a way that would fulfill the dream. But at present that is not there, but that is a possibility. The second dream was Asia becoming free. That has been achieved. The third dream was this unity of man around the world, globalization. That also is not going terribly well. The fourth dream has been achieved, that is Indian spiritual practices and Indian philosophy going into the West. The fifth dream was his own dream of supramentalization. I cannot comment on that one way or the other. So I'd say 2 have been achieved, 2 have not been achieved. The 5th one is up in the air, up in the supramental. I cannot say anything about that.
And so, what is your personal dream?
My personal dream. Well, my personal dream is spiritual realization. I am a worshipper of Shiva, and my personal dream is ultimately to merge with him.
And what about for Auroville? Do you have any dreams, hopes, aspirations?
Well, these are all the dreams and aspirations that we have been mentioning. Auroville is running into certain problems now, and we've got to sort them out. The governing board's responsibility is to sort out the problems as and when they come up. We've had some quite serious problems recently. So we are meeting again now next month in February, and we'll try and see what we can do to sort it out. It's a continuous process, you know. It is not as if you solve one problem and that solves everything, you know. Things always keep coming up. And so it is a continuous process. We're going to continue. Our dream is really to ultimately make Auroville a place where people live in harmony and in spiritual awareness. Because remember, Auroville is not a retirement home. It's not a comfortable holiday home. It is a place for spiritual endeavor. Now that is up to the Aurovillians. I can't in any way say anything about whether Aurovillians have evolved or not. It's not for me to say, because these again are very intangible things. It's difficult to quantify. But the whole idea is that Auroville is a spiritual community. It's a unique spiritual community, multinational, multicultural, multilinguistic, multi-religious. It's a spiritual community. And to the extent that Aurovillians partake of that spirituality, to that extent it will succeed.
Can you see that happening, or what do you see happening in the next 50 years?
Well, I don't know. It's very difficult to say. I mean, one hopes that it will move towards 2 things I hope will happen. Firstly, we don't have enough people. See, the mother apparently envisaged a city or a township of 50,000. Now, in 50 years, we've only got 3,000. So, you know, at this rate, how long will it take us to ever get to 50,000? So, one thing is we need more people. How do you get more people? You need more accommodation. You need accommodation for younger people. It's very expensive now to become an Aurovillian, because you go to build a house, you go to do this many, 30, 40 lakhs. Nobody can afford that nowadays, youngsters. But that's why I wanted to focus on youth facilities, youth hostels, dorms and so on, so that more people can come. So one of the challenges before us is to increase the number of people in Auroville. The second challenge is now to build the city. You see, the city it is not a city yet. There are bits and pieces here and there. It doesn't feel like a city. So to build a city, you've got to consolidate the land. That is a big problem we are having. Because if you don't have the land, you can't have a virtual city. It's not a supramental city. It's a city which is supposed to be in the ground. So building the city is the biggest single problem. Increasing the population of Auroville goes along with the building of the city, and administering it properly. So we have a lot of problems ahead, which is good. Next 50 years, let's see.
Have you learnt anything from this festival?
Well, I've learned a lot from Auroville generally. From my association with Auroville, I've learned. From the festival also, I have learned that the Aurovillians are very creative when they want to be, when they collaborate. They're extremely efficient, and all the literature that they brought out, both for Baroda and for Kolkata, is really very impressive. They can do it very well, and they organize the functions also.
You did a PhD on Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
What is your conclusion about Sri Aurobindo moving from Calcutta to Pondicherry?
Well, my conclusion, I have a whole chapter on that, the withdrawal from politics. My conclusion is that his spiritual awakening, powerful spiritual awakening there. He also has recorded that when he was in jail, for several days he heard the voice of Vivekananda guiding him in certain aspects of the yoga. So by then he had really entered into a new realm, and what he needed was a quiet place where he could continue his yoga, and that he couldn't do if he was involved in the day-to-day politics. So he would have been in jail and out of jail and in jail and out of jail and running here and there. So for his own yoga, it was necessary for him to withdraw. And to withdraw, he could not withdraw when he was in Calcutta because he was a marked man. So the only way he could withdraw was to leave British India. The British would have picked him up wherever he was. That is why he went to Chandranagar, or Chandranagore, which is a French possession. And from there he went to Pondicherry, which is a French possession. It wasn't under the British. So that's why I think he chose Pondicherry. Although there is a myth also that there was an old ashram in Pondicherry, Agastya's, one of the great saints of ancient India. He had a ashram there in Pondicherry and lots of other stories. But I think the main reason was that he needed solitary sadhana in order to develop this yoga that he was developing and all these sort of new powers that he was envisaging. He couldn't do that in Calcutta. I think it's important for that because a lot of people doubted, why did he leave? Did he leave to get away from the British and all? I think he left because there was an inner adesha, an inner, as it were, necessity for him to do his yoga quietly, which was simply not possible in Calcutta.
So, sir, do you have any advice or anything that you could share with me for my journey of Auroville?
Well, keep yourself very open. Keep yourself open to new ideas. Keep yourself open to new concepts. Watch your dreams. I don't know whether I've been involved also with Jungians and post-Jungians. And they have a lot of emphasis on dream and dream interpretation. But I don't think there's any set yoga in Auroville. Is there a set program or you can do what you like?
Generally, I think Auroville is up to the individual to discover what Auroville is. So there's not really a set thing.
You don't have to go to the Matri Mandir regularly. You needn't go.
I do. I spend at least an hour every day there. It's my favorite place on earth.
I think that's important. I would advise you because there's a power there in that Matri Mandir which you have to imbibe. You can only do that if you go there. So go to the Matri Mandir regularly. Do what work you're doing this, for example, photography you're doing. You go to work. I think like somebody asked mother this one, he wants to be an Aurovillian. She asked, is he useful? In other words, can he do something? Because Auroville, as I said, is not a retirement home. If you're there, you go to work. And you got to do something, whatever you do. It's a sort of a karma yoga. If you do it in a spirit of consecration to the divine, then that work itself becomes yoga. So it would be a good opportunity. You're a young person, you've got lots of years ahead of you. Try and gain as much as you can from Auroville. You're lucky to come here at this age. And the best of luck to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So that's all the questions from me. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Nothing except that this is a very, very unique project and every Aurovillian has a grave responsibility. Because if you have the opportunity, you also have the responsibility. You have a responsibility to yourselves to grow spiritually. You have a responsibility to the community to partake actively in the work of the community. So you have this dual responsibility. And I would urge that all Aurovillians should maximize both the inner growth and the outer work. That's all I can say.